You grew up here.
Yeah, this is where I was actually born in that house right to the
You were
right.
born next door,
That's right.
but you grew up here.
Exactly, yeah. That's a 3-bedroom, and a few years after my little sister was born, my parents bought this house next door. It was a 4-bedroom. So my whole life kind of growing up here, I had a paper route just down those streets, DuPont, Springland, Norbury.
Is it true that you used to go from your classes at high school and go watch Question Period?
If my teachers see this, I will deny, but yeah, the few times I would find excuses to get to Question Period if I got out of class a little bit early, maybe shave a few minutes off the end of a class and go catch Question Period. Immaculata High School used to be on Bronson in Ottawa. It's not too far away from the hill, and if I hurried, I could make it in time for the start of Question Period.
If I went into this house now, would your room be as it was?
You know, it's pretty darn close. I think my dad's using it a little bit as storage. But yeah, I've visited him lots. I've gone upstairs to look for an old book or a memento or something, and the same posters are on the wall, the same CDs are on the shelf, and some of the same clothes are in the closet.
You're not putting up posters in your new bedroom, are you?
No. No, Jill, my wife Jill, had some very specific rules on decorating that I leave all of that to her, and posters were not on the list.
I'm excited to see it. Will you take us there?
Let's go. Yeah.
Thank you so
Fantastic.
much. So you won the end of May.
That's right.
On the 13th ballot. You booted Ronna Ambrose out of here. When did you move in?
Well, she was already packed up, I believe.
Okay.
So we spent a little bit of time in the hotel because the National Capital Commission, who is the entity that manages all the official residences, they like to do a little bit of a clean and a couple of little things around the house in between tenants, so to speak. So we kind of moved up after the summer.
You put your own touches on it like Donald Trump did with gold faucets and some...
No. Gosh, no. The only thing we said was anything that's very valuable, please put in storage, because we do have 5 kids and we don't want to lose our damage deposit and break anything.
Now, I think I know who some of the previous occupants were here at Stornoway, but who's lived here before?
Well, any leader of the opposition has the right to live here, so I might be missing a few. But of course, Thomas Mulcair and Jack Layton would have been the most recent occupants before Ronna.
Do you give tours?
We sure do, yeah. Would you like to come in?
That'd be great.
All right,
thank you. Usually on a tour, people name the rooms. What's the name of this room?
We don't have names for that. This would be the living room.
So your French is strong, it's getting better, but I want to talk to you about what's happening in Quebec. You lost that seat in Lac-Saint-Jean. That was like a stalwart, a conservative stalwart. Surrey, BC, you lost that seat there.
On the Lac-Saint-Jean one, we picked that seat up in a by-election, so it had not been conservative before the early 2000s.
But forgive me, Quebec is the second largest voting province.
No, for sure.
That's a big loss.
So there's no question, I have to introduce myself to Quebec.
Considering that this is the midpoint for the Liberal Party and they are still continuing this trend, that's
I would look at it from this point of view, that at their midpoint, this is the midpoint of their first term. And they're looking an awful lot like the midpoint of a second or third term government. You know, they are starting to accumulate a lot of errors.
But Canadians don't typically elect a party for one term. I mean, you must have known that going into this job.
A lot of things are changing all across the world here in Canada. Some of the conventional wisdom about traditional voting patterns, I think all of that is up for grabs now.
So what's the next stop on the tour?
Well, like most people, I know when I go to someone's house, we always end up hanging out in the kitchen. So if you like, we can go check that out. Just up and through here.
Do you actually cook?
I do, yeah.
What's your favorite dish to make?
So I love barbecuing, and my wife bought me a smoker a few summers ago. That's still in Regina, so I don't get to use it much here. But I like taking, ribs or a nice pork loin and smoking that for low and slow for a few hours.
There are people that say that you're followed by this comparison to Stephen Harper. I mean, at what point should you start carving your own path? I mean, Canadians would like to know what ideas you have. So I hope you'll indulge me on a few issues here, because Canada is legalizing marijuana.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 5 children, and I'm not happy about the idea that that marijuana is going to be legal. I don't think it sends the right message to our kids. I voted against the bill, as did our caucus.
On the issue of immigration, the Liberal government recently said that they will bring in 1 million refugees, immigrants within the next 3 years. Are those numbers something that you would sustain, or is that a target that you think you would surpass?
I think the question on immigration is to make sure that it's anchored on needs for Canada. What are our needs? We have an aging population. We have skill shortages in some areas. And if we're going to arrive at a number, let's make that based on evidence, on facts. When you compare that to what's going on under the Liberal government, where people are walking across the border illegally, in some cases, in some periods, by the thousands in short periods of time, Canadians are very upset by that. The feedback I get on that, they are very concerned that our generous system is being taken advantage of.
Your thoughts on Omar Khadr and how the Liberal government handled that?
Big mistake. Unnecessary, and showed you the priorities of this government. So let's just juxtapose this for a minute. Here we have Omar Khadr, convicted terrorist who had admitted to actions that led to the loss of life of an American medic, and there's a widow now because of his actions, and there are children without a father. The excuse they gave us was that they didn't want to have to pay the court battles. Omar Khadr was compensated for what happened to him. He was allowed to come back to Canada. He was repatriated. I believe that's the only compensation that he deserved, and I think that it was a Liberal choice. It was Justin Trudeau's choice to pay him that $10 million, and he didn't have to do it.
But I'm wondering how passionate you are about that, because you had that opportunity when the House came back after the summer, and I guess the party had just kind of glazed over that issue, and you don't really hear anything about it anymore.
They sent the check. Justin Trudeau made sure that Omar Khadr got paid before the widow of the medic who was killed had her opportunity to have her case heard in court.
Do you have a basketball court in this house?
No, we don't.
Do you have a bowling alley?
Nope, no bowling alley.
Indoor swimming pool?
Nope.
Not fun.
What?
But I hear you have a bro cave.
We do have a bro cave.
What's a bro cave?
Well, it's a new term that my kids invented, my two sons. When we moved in and they were given the tour, they saw a particular part of the house, and they managed to convince their sisters that they would lay claim to it. It's on the 3rd floor, and love to show you if you want to see.
Thank you.
Okay. One more flight of stairs. So here we are. This is
The bro cave.
the bro cave, yeah. So I had never heard that term before. I'm not sure the Pokemon stickers were there.
That's very cute.
When the Dutch royal family was here. That's a new addition. We have to scrape that off before we move out. But it's one of my it's probably my favorite room in the house. It's a little bit cozier. It has a nice feel to it. We'll often watch football on the weekends up here and have snacks out. So yeah, it's a very comfortable room.
On the Canada-US file, it seems as though our Prime Minister has a very good relationship with the US President. What do you think you could do better?
There's been some missed opportunities. When President Obama was still in the White House, Justin Trudeau went down for a much celebrated state visit. Softwood lumber agreement was still possible, and he didn't bring his natural resource minister with him. He brought his in-laws and his party's main fundraiser instead. Missed opportunity there. Once the primary season was over in the US, we knew that either the Democrat or the Republican candidate was going to target NAFTA in some way. We should have been on the ground immediately in preparation so that Canada wasn't caught in some of the rhetoric at NAFTA.
Is NAFTA relevant?
Absolutely. Take a drive down the 401, go out all throughout southwestern Ontario, go to British Columbia, go to basically any farm in this country. NAFTA is incredibly relevant. So many jobs depend on it. And that's why we need this government to take it so seriously.
But maybe that deal is looking like a bilateral deal as opposed to a trilateral deal.
Well, first of all, it's anytime you lose access to a trading partner, that's a bad thing. Second thing, there could be a lot of threats even to the bilateral relationship if NAFTA fails. So I wouldn't want to go there. I'd like our government. We're urging him. We're offering our help. We've offered to sing from the same song sheet when we go down to Washington to help that cause in a kind of united front.
Do you think Canada is hypocritical if we call the U.S. protectionist? What about our dairy? What about telecom and foreign ownership? I mean, are we guilty of that?
I think there are definitely some areas of our economy that that would benefit from some changes to the regulation. But let's make no mistake, the United States has a robust system of support for their agriculture. When Donald Trump went after our dairy sector, he was standing in a state that receives millions of dollars in aid from the Farm Bill. So I'm not prepared to accept the point that we would gain anything from that. I think we'd be putting ourselves at a huge disadvantage, because I don't believe Donald Trump is about to start dismantling support for his agriculture sector. So I think there's a way that you can arrive at a table. The previous Conservative government managed to sign trade deals all around the world, while at the same time preserving the integrity of our dairy sector.
I don't think you'd come into my home empty-handed, so I brought a housewarming gift
that's
for
too
you.
kind. You didn't have to do that, but thank you. Oh, wow. That is a classic.
Andrew Scheer, don't be afraid.
I see. I see what you did there.
And there's more.
Oh, there's more. This is if I take the wrong risk, is that right? Well, if you could get the exact same gifts to Justin Trudeau when you go visit him, then it'll even it out.
Thank you kindly for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.